Hi, and welcome to Second Rate Film School. I'm Andrew,
Jake?
And I'm Jacob.
and this year for our early Thanksgiving video, we're doing the classic Freebirds. Freebirds.
That is factually accurate.
So this is Relativity Media. So did they is this is their own animated movie then? They didn't outsource this to anybody. That this is an in-house relative oh it's Real FX, never mind.
Oh, you didn't
They're
notice
like the
that?
studio, I guess relatively studios, that's what it's called, right? They distributed it.
Okay.
They're the studio behind it.
So wait, Jake, you didn't notice the logo at the beginning when you watched this movie?
No, I did not, Wes.
Hmm,
Funny you should
interesting.
ask.
Yeah, well, I guess I could describe now. We decided to make this commentary extra fun since none of us had ever watched this movie to watch it in thirds. I watched the first third, Jake watched the middle third, and Jacob watched the final third. And we do not know what happens in each other's parts of the movies. So this is going to be interesting to see what we thought happened and how close, I guess, our predictions for what happened before or happened after our parts are.
Yeah, so Wes, let's why don't you go ahead and take a shot of what's gonna happen
Well,
in
let's,
the last two
before we
thirds.
do that, let's give general impressions we had of the segments we each watched.
Oh,
So,
I liked
Was, why
it.
don't you start with the first 30 minutes that you watched?
I really liked it. It was very chaotic. Sometimes I felt like I accidentally skipped into middle part of the movie because it just takes some pretty quick left turns early on. And I'd be looking down. I'm like, wow, I'm only 5 minutes in. This is crazy. But overall, I really liked it. I think some of the elements here of the turkeys being really mean spirited to him for whatever reason is really douchey. I don't know why. But they were very mean to him, and it felt like very reminiscent of like Rudolph and like those old Rankin Bass specials. Um, to like where everyone's mean to the main character. It felt a little bit more mean spirited here. We'll see if the sense of turkey community comes up, but I enjoyed it overall. Two thumbs up.
well, I guess segueing to me is I feel like I dropped into the boring part of the movie. In the so-called second act, I guess, wasn't really a great second act. In fact, I think this movie's quite bad. Um, just pretty boring. I didn't laugh once. I I, I, I don't know. I was shocked to find out this came out in 2015. I thought this was a movie from 2006 that I had no memory of, but this actually came out 5 years ago, and the animation just looks pretty cheap.
You know what it is? I was thinking about this yesterday. I think the animation looks cheap because of the art style. Because I actually think the animation quality itself is pretty high end. You look at like the backgrounds and the level of detail. I think it's the art style. It has a very generic, bland, cartoonish art style that makes it look a lot worse in terms of animation quality. I think that really affects it.
So, what do
Well,
you think of your third?
Well, hold on. Were you? Did you have more to say on the middle of Freebirds?
well, I was going to ask you, Jacob. It's just surprising because this movie came out 5 years ago. I mean, I guess that must be why it looks. It's because of the animations or the art style, like you're saying. It's just very misguided.
Yeah,
It's very generic and just sort of basic.
yeah.
There's no like real vision behind the characters' designs or like why they're designed the way they are. They just sort
It,
of look all the same, and it's just sort of bland. There's nothing real unique and visionary about the character designs that says anything about them or the movie itself, which I think goes for a
well,
lot
yeah.
of
When
this
I was
film based on what
watching
I
it,
saw.
it reminded me they're kind of taking a page out of like the earlier DreamWorks movies like Shrek and such. Kind of has that more sarcastic, irreverent sense of humor and everything, but it just doesn't do a good job of it at all. I don't think the concept is necessarily bad. It's kind of funny, but it's just the execution of it. Just it kind of comes off as a little cynical and very
I think it's
just
lazy
Yeah.
from what
yeah,
I
lazy
saw.
is a good word. Yeah, me
I
too.
guess I guess I'll and again I have not seen the whole thing, but I saw 30 minutes and I could see a pattern just from what I saw. And if I'm to jump into my part of the film, I felt like I was watching like an SNL parody of like an animated movie or something like that, because it was like all the character arcs were wrapping up, and I was watching just the ends of very generic character arcs. So it's there, and like, I don't know, I guess spoiler alert. But you have like, I turned it on and it's like Owen Wilson being like, I can't go back in time. I need to stay with this turkey that I met in the past because I love her. And then there's a thing where the turkey's father is like, I've finally come to accept my children. And it's like lots of very generic arcs, but it was like I skipped through actually having to watch the arcs take place, and I was just watching the resolution of all of them.
Here's the thing. I totally forgot the movie's concept. Sorry to cut you off, but I forgot there is time travel. And I know last week in the commentary you outlined the premise, but I totally forgot there was time travel. So when the time travel egg came out of nowhere, I was baffled. But then I quickly remembered what you said.
I have to say though,
real quick. Sorry, I got to finish my thought.
oh sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of lazy humor in this, where it is trying to do the DreamWorks, irreverent pop culture referencing sort of humor like Shrek, but it's not grounding it in character or any sort of clever gags or jokes or anything. It's just, it's like they took the writers and they were just like, come up with something like jokes to sprinkle into this very basic plot within 10 minutes. However, and I don't want to set your expectations up too high, but this film ends with maybe the greatest final line that I have seen in a motion picture in years. It shattered my expectations in terms of the final two words spoken in this film. And I don't want to give it away, but when you see it, your mind will be blown, and everything that this film is about will coalesce. So get ready for that.
Well, and even though I did like from what I've seen, I will agree with you now that it does seem a little outdated. I mean, just looking at it, we were at the press conference with the president. This was made during the Obama administration, but they have a Southern, moron character as the president. It seems like, they're doing a character or reference to George W. Bush. It's like, he'd been out of office for almost 8 years at the point. So it does feel a little outdated, but overall, I enjoyed my third.
Well, that's because you just watched the beginning.
Yeah. All right, well then, I guess let's do our predictions on what we think happens. So, I think ultimately, nervous turkey they'll save the day, and he decides, hey, even though I love pizza and partying and the good life, I'm gonna stay in the olden days with my new friend. And then the president's remote gets left behind as an artifact, and it ends with a future scene of archaeologists working with turkeys finding the remote and being like, how did that get there? And then there's like a statue of the turkeys. That's how I think the movie ends.
Okay. Well, I'm going to guess the opening that we're watching now involves time travel, and that they're going to somehow go back in time. From what I saw with Woody Harrelson, the turkey's named Jake. He's like a alpha male turkey or whatever. He goes back with... I thought this was Luke Wilson, honestly. I totally forgot it was Owen Wilson.
That almost made it like more like a parody of an animated movie to me. The fact that it was Owen Wilson, who I like, but it was like Owen Wilson doing the voice of the turkey. It's just like something like a strangely generic, straightforward choice,
Yeah.
It's like Owen Wilson. It's almost like the Rob Schneider joke on South Park. Owen Wilson is a turkey on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so I'm going to guess that from what I saw in this, so they do go back in time to the first Thanksgiving and everything. They're in that, and they're trying to help the turkeys there not get killed. And the pilgrims seem to be under a lot of pressure because a lot of their food is gone, and they're starving and everything. So they want to find these turkeys and eat them. So yeah, okay. So here's Woody Harrelson here, and Owen Wilson falls in love with Amy Poehler's turkey, and so the part that I got, he's ready to go back, and I think the time machine is voiced by George Takei.
It is.
Oh, and by the way, I think well, I'll get to it when we get to that part of the movie, but um, I think that he falls in love with Amy Poehler. He doesn't want to go because she doesn't want to leave. He stays behind because I don't know. He loves her and he's found his place here as like a savior. And then Jake goes back in time to start a new batch of turkeys or whatever, like a civilization of new turkeys. I don't know. I don't know if they can stop Thanksgiving, but there was interesting. I wouldn't even say interesting. I'm just going all over the place now because I forgot about this movie.
You're in the worst position of any of us.
Yeah,
he got the ending. I got the beginning. You have no idea.
Yeah, I'm like this is like the Two Towers, like the stupid version that I got. So
Freebirds is like the Two Towers. Jake Plumeri, 2020.
So there's like a whole theme about how they get to the turkey civilization back in the past, and Owen Wilson just assumes that they're dumb and they don't do anything, and Amy Poehler's like, oh well, if we didn't do anything, we'd be dumb. We're more than that. He's like, oh, you're right. So I think it might involve that in some way, or I'm giving this movie too much credit. But I think Owen Wilson's going to stay in the past, and Woody Harrelson's going to go back to the present and then try to save the turkeys there. Or I don't know. I don't know how they're going to stop Thanksgiving. I don't know if it can be done. Maybe in a very nihilistic way.
Actually, I'm going to go back and add to my prediction because Owen Wilson Turkey loves pizza. I think they're going to make pizza, and that's going to be the first Thanksgiving meal. And Jacob is laughing, so I think that might be right.
All right, well, while Jake goes and grabs a Valium, I guess I'll predict what happens in the middle. And I'm just going based on what I saw at the end. Like I said, I saw like the ending of all these like very generic character arcs without actually having to see the arc take place. I just saw the resolution. So is there an arc where the Amy Poehler Turkey's like father doesn't trust his kids or thinks that they're not up to the task of leading the clan of turkeys or whatever, but then comes to see that they do have it in them? I think that's a thing.
Do you want me to answer?
I mean, I don't really care.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
I'm going to predict that Owen Wilson, when he goes back in time, that he meets Amy Poehler and they don't get along at first, and maybe everybody doesn't trust him, but then he helps come up with a plan along with Woody Harrelson that one-ups and takes out the plans to eat the turkeys, and then they all come to trust him, and that's when Amy Poehler comes to like him. And I had another prediction, but it ended up being wrong. My prediction was this was going to start off with Woody Harrelson as a kid walking around outside, encountering the time machine and the Great Turkey, which is the thing that told him to go on this mission. I thought that would be the opening.
No. Well.
But it was not. And then that would be like a cold open, and then it would cut to the present.
That would have been better.
I have an answer for that, but I know what happens there, but I won't say anything, I guess.
I think I can guess.
I mean now, because I thought that was going to be the opening, based on something that happens at the end. But now I see that it isn't. It just opens with sort of a setup of the premise and the status quo of turkeys and Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Just, understandable, but...
All right, cool. Well, thank you for watching.
That's it.
Now, Jacob, I realized when you're talking about, earning the trust and taking down the big bad guys, I realized that plot sounded very similar to Avatar.
I got real Avatar vibes
Yeah.
from the father storyline. It also sort of reminded me of there's a similar arc in Tarzan, Disney's Tarzan, and Disney's Dinosaur as well. If anybody remembers that movie,
I thought you meant the Jim Henson Dinosaur show.
About the chief father who doesn't trust his kid to take over with this new person that's the protagonist, but then comes to accept them.
It's kind of like Atlantis, The Lost Empire.
Oh my god, I haven't seen that in forever.
We're going to do that eventually.
Wait a minute. I think I have a new prediction for the ending. So, in the middle of the movie, I was sort of getting a very tangential Native American allegory going on, but in a very superficial way. So I think the the end is going to be where the turkeys reveal themselves to the to the settlers, and they all get along and they don't eat them. That's what I
Right.
think. Because they learn to live in harmony and everything, and because I don't know, do
So
the
you
Native
don't think
American
Andrew Jackson makes them go on a trail of feathers?
That's what the Freebirds 2 was about.
Could you imagine? Like they really take it. Oh, bury my heart at wounded turkey.
You say Trail of Feathers, and it's like I know it's a joke that you just came up with in like 2 seconds, but it still probably has more historical context to it than most of the jokes that are actually in this movie.
Probably.
Although if the turkeys do reveal themselves as like sentient, that might really put the fear of God into those settlers. Maybe they'll. I think they would. I mean, I don't know.
They
Some
create
real
a
butterfly
turkey
effect
cult.
stuff going down here.
They create a turkey cult, so it's like in Zombie Island with cat gods. It's just turkey gods. Now I have to say something bullshit here is Jake, the Jake Turkey, much like people named Jake in real life, is clearly the stupidest one. He clearly doesn't understand what's going on. I'm assuming we're going to reveal he had brain damage at some point, but Owen Wilson Turkey is much smarter than him, and like looks on the map, and the red line leads to the time machine, the blue line leads to the X. He's like, yeah, the blue line leads to the time machine. They follow the blue line, but still somehow enter the time machine. I don't get how that works. You'd see there's the blue end dot there that would imply this is the end spot, but here's the fucking time machine. What the fuck, Freebirds?
See, this is just like such a generic art style. I think of like other, I don't know, I guess I compare it to something like Up. Like you look at Up, and like the characters' appearances in that like say so much about who they are as characters. And I'm totally blanking. What's the name of the main character in Up?
Carl.
Is it Carl? Okay. Carl, he has a short, square appearance that shows how rigid he is and how unchanging and how like old he is. And like his character design just says so much about who he is as a character. What does it say with like the design of the turkeys here? They all just sort of look the same.
Yeah. I mean, all the turkeys in the opening, with the exception of Reggie, looked alike, and now Jake looks a little different. And from the 2 minutes I saw of turkeys in the past, they more or less look the same, except like older one and then sexy Amy Poehler one.
It's like Red's a little bit bigger than the Owen Wilson one. Is that his name? I'm trying to remember.
I think Reggie, yeah.
Yeah.
His name's Reggie.
I believe so.
Woody.
I watched this like early this morning. I think I would remember.
I did too.
That's just There's so much more that could be said about them through the art style.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about if you make all the turkeys look alike, and that's like supposed to be a plot point of like he's the rebel, he's the only one that's different. But it's like they're not even doing conformity story. At least in the first, they're all like he's just the only smart turkey, which I guess that's enough to differentiate him. But like, yeah, it felt more lazy than anything.
Remember that Pixar short film For the Birds,
Maybe.
where all the birds are identical looking and sitting on like the
Yeah.
power line,
Yeah.
and then there's just the one crazy looking bird, because that's the bird that doesn't fit in with the others. And I almost wanted to see something like that with Woody Harrelson, where like, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I watched the ending of this movie, but just like even from what I saw, everyone looked the same. Everyone sort of felt the same as characters, and it didn't help that there wasn't any real clever character-specific humor behind what was there at the end.
You know, it's a good example of something.
Other than the final line, which is the most incredible line ever put onto film.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I was actually going to say, in terms of design for animals of this ballpark, I guess it's Chicken Run that does a great job of making them very distinct.
That's what I was thinking.
Absolutely. Even just, I think back to one of the classic ones for me is, and this is not a CGI animated movie, but Dexter's Laboratory. The contrast between Dee Dee and Dexter says everything about their characters without having to have them say anything about who they are as characters. One's tall, graceful, and free, and the other one's short, small, and sort of compact and rigid. says so much.
Yeah, here, one's big and one's small.
Also, here
One's
they
kind of big and one's regular sized.
also the set piece. They're now involved in the climax of that 1998 Avengers movie starring Sean Connery, R.I.P., where he finds Uma Thurman.
So this was actually my big question going into this, was where the time machine came from, because they never explained it in my third of the movie.
The government created it, and as we're about to see, the turkeys being there creates a problem. So the time travel soldier like jumps out, and they take his place. But this is below Camp David for some reason, because apparently the pardoned turkey lives with the president once they pardon him. And orders
See,
pizza
this
from
kind of
Chuck E.
silliness
Cheese.
I'm okay with. This is where it's having fun. This concept.
Yeah. This is great though. How George Takei is the time machine.
Is he? Is it?
It is.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
George Takei.
Oh my. As people would say. Hey, look at the Mac background. If this movie had balls, that time traveler would get like stuck and like age rapidly into dust.
Those guys
Shit.
sort of look like the Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
Guys, except less creative.
I was
Yeah.
thinking that and the radiation suit Marty wears in Back to the Future as Darth Vader. But yeah, they're right below Camp David. I'm sure that's where the president wants to have his safe retreats over a fucking time portal.
So watch. Just give me the rundown of what just happened here, in the first in the part that you watched.
Okay, so this turkey was like, they're gonna eat us, they're gonna eat us. And all the other turkeys are religious zealots who believe in a corn god. And when...
It's the Great Turkey, right?
Yeah. And then a bunch of people come in, he's like, this is the day they're gonna eat us, and everyone's freaking out. And then, very mean-spiritedly, they all decide to sacrifice him to the corn god, and they throw him out. Which I'm like thinking, like I said, you know, like pretty mean-spirited. Like, you know, there's some moments of levity in Rudolph and like these old Rankin Bass shorts where everyone's mean, but like there's still times where there's nice moments, like when Rudolph's playing before they discover that he's a fucking freak and all that, and then like, you know, the girl deer that likes him, Clarice, and all that. But it's like everyone just fucking hates him, and then he wanders out, and the president's daughter falls in love with him and begs her father to pardon, be the turkey that he pardons. And then he comes to live with them with Camp David. He loves the sweet life, living in a bedroom, watching TV, ordering numerous pizzas, playing with the president's remote that he brought back. Which I think they show like there's a laser pointer on the remote, so I have a feeling that's going to play a part of defeating the villains using laser pointer technology. And then this turkey's like, hey, a great turkey told me, you know, there's a time machine and we need you. So, and then they find the time machine below Camp David, and then they get sucked into it when they're trying to run away. And now they're going to the past. And then this is about where, you know, a few minutes before I hop off. So now they're going back to Plymouth to stop Thanksgiving.
What the turkeys don't know is that because the way quantum physics work, every time that they travel back in time, it actually kills them and then just creates an exact copy of them out on the other side. It's a very dark twist. So technically all the turkeys in this get killed multiple times throughout this, and we never follow any of their actual adventures. We're just following clones of them.
I was
See,
gonna say.
I was assuming this is going to be like 11/22/63, the Stephen King novel, where it's Kevin J. O'Connor's going to show up and be like, you're creating time strings, you're going to destroy us all, and then kills himself. Spoiler.
It's like I just read the Michael Crichton book Timeline like a month ago.
Oh, you did.
And that's how time travel works in that. They actually can't send you back in time. They thought that they were, and they thought that they would break you down on a quantum cellular level and send you into the alternate timelines through quantum foam. But it turns out that they actually weren't, and that it was just because of how the alternate timelines work. They would just break you down, and you would basically just die, and it would create an exact copy of you on the other side somehow.
Oh shit.
So that's what happened here. That's a new character right there.
Well,
that's my new headcanon. Welcome to the movie.
Well, it reminds me of what you were talking about, because when I was watching, I'm getting to my part soon, but I was hoping, since this is a time travel movie, I totally, I didn't care, I didn't remember, I forgot. that this involved time travel, and I was hoping during the second act that it would involve some time travel shenanigans, like some stakes involved within the plot regarding around time travel. They have a goal, they have to accomplish it, or else and this happens. But it's pretty straightforward, where it just becomes like a rescue thing, but in the most generic way possible.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of time travel movies. Like, you have movies like Back to the Future where time travel serves to kick off the plot, but you have to have something like there's something that time travel can't like solve. Like there's quite literally a ticking clock, and a lot of movies it's just like it's time travel is completely incidental. Like it's how you said you forgot time travel was involved. You just thought these were turkeys trying to stop Thanksgiving from happening, and it sounds like nothing happens really for the rest.
No, it doesn't go anywhere with that.
There
At
is
least in
some
my
time
section.
travel stuff at the end for sure, without getting too much into it.
See, I wish the time travel though really complicated things for these two characters in the second act, because the second act is where it's said where you throw the stones at them when they're up in the tree. But not much of that happened in the second act.
Do you think?
Oh yeah, no, that would have been very good.
Do you think in the next Freebirds they go back to try and kill Hitler?
I always think of did anyone see that interview with the Avengers writers, Marcus and McFeely, where they asked him why Captain America didn't go and try and stop all these huge historical disasters at the end of Endgame? Spoiler alert for a movie that is the highest grossing film of all time, so everybody's seen it. And they basically were just like, yeah, we don't need to answer that.
There's a funny sketch by this channel called Warp Speed, I believe, where they do that showing like Captain America through the decades, like having to like struggle with not being able to reveal what he knows. So it's like, because Peggy be like, oh, you're not gonna tell me who wins the World Series, right? He's like, I can't, right? If I do one thing, it'll cause the universe to collapse in on itself. And she's like, oh, whatever. Oh, JFK's going to Dallas this week. He like, just spits his coffee out. It's like, do you think anything's going to happen at the Munich Olympics? Probably not. and that's why I like that these turkeys are going to have to like live with horrible consequences if they can't tell anyone. Like they befriend the Pilgrims and Native Americans, and the Native Americans like, wow, we're all going to be friends for a long time. And the turkey's like, maybe not.
Captain America found purpose beyond the never-ending fight. I get it. Even if the logic doesn't totally add up, but I understand the thematic importance.
I actually thought when you said, did anyone read the interview, after I said go back to kill Hitler, I thought you were going to talk about the time when Jeb Bush was asked would he kill baby Hitler, and he got like really passionate by saying, yes, I would undoubtedly go back and kill baby Hitler. It's like, calm down, it's hypothetical, Jeb. Geez. That man could have been president.
Oh, by the way,
that would have been a disaster. Could you imagine a man unstable like that as the president? I can't even imagine.
I would love someone to ask Trump, like, hey, what would you do if you could go back in time and kill baby Hitler? Like, how would he respond? Like, he'd be like, I'd be the best. I'd go back. I'd be the best time traveler. Best time traveler of all time. Better than Lincoln. Better than Washington, better than all of them. But, the thing about crooked Hillary, and then he would not answer the question.
Like, it's one of the, I don't want to get too much into it, but the response would probably be worse than anything we're thinking up right now. But anyway, back to Freebirds.
Oh, I think this is Bill Nye, who's the hunter.
I don't know.
That's cool.
I'll look it up.
I think so. Oh, and this blue guy, I think it might be either David Hayter or Will Arnett.
Yeah, love.
Oh my god.
Because the blue. Did I say chicken or turkey? I don't fucking remember. But the turkey.
The blue one, I think.
Yeah. Okay. The blue guy kind of sounds like Solid Snake. That's why I thought it may have been David Hayter, because I'm like, wow, I'm sure this movie was made on a budget. They could only afford some known names, so they probably for some of them they had to. So
I heard
probably
that there's going to be a turkey dinner tonight.
That's actually what he's. That's what he sounds like.
I can say the cast of this is Colm Meaney is Miles Standish. I don't know if that's who that's supposed to be because we can't hear it. Keith David plays Chief Broadbeak, so I guess he's the father. Dan Folger is Governor Bradford. And then the Taco Bell dog plays a turkey named Amos, so I'm thinking that's the blue one because it kind of sounds like the Taco Bell dog. And then no one I have ever heard of past that.
I saw Keith David at a CVS once.
Did you go
He
up
was
to
buying.
ask him if he was the thing?
Did you try to run him over like Andrew tried to run over the guy from Jurassic
Ben
Park 3?
Hildebrand.
Ben Hildebrand.
No, he was buying a lot of bottled water. I kind of looked at him. I recognized him. Then I think he kind of looked at me, and then he just got the hell out of there.
Was this at the beginning of quarantine?
No, this was like in February.
And
So,
Keith
beginning
David
of
knocked an
quarantine.
old lady out of the way, grabbed the remaining paper towels, and booked it.
He's like, fuck you, I was in there something about Mary.
Get the hell out of my way!
What the fuck is going on?
It
Oh,
was
this is
really-
when I come in. This is right when I started to
Can
to watch
turkeys
it.
do this?
I don't know.
I know they have the waddle for like sex stuff, I guess, but like, do they inflate? Jacob, Google turkey sex.
So at this point, I didn't know this was Woody Harrelson voicing this character. I just wanted you to know that.
He barely spoke in my part of the movie. I think he only had like a few lines.
Because he was about to do Rampart.
It was
Do you guys
kinda
know
like,
about
it's
his
kind of
name?
like how Adam Driver has no lines at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. It's pretty much the exact same thing, is what I'm saying. They're basically the same movie.
So, but do you know about Woody Harrelson's infamous Reddit AMA?
No.
So he does this, and it was at the time when the movie Rampart is coming out, and it to this day it's not really established if it was him or an assistant who doesn't know how Reddit works. So an AMA is ask me anything, and like people will do it. Like people do it obviously to promote a movie that they're doing or a new show or something. And questions will be about that, but if you're a famous person like Woody Harrelson, questions will go back to other stuff. So, like, I participated in one with Paul Giamatti for his show Lodge 49, and a lot of it was about the show, but a lot of people were talking about, like, hey, big fat liar, and I asked, like, a good question about, John Adams, his miniseries, and he gave, like, a really good answer, that was insightful. He was taking part of it. Woody Harrelson clearly didn't know what an AMA is, so, like, he just kept talking about Rampart, so, like, what was the most difficult role for you to do? And he's like, well, definitely preparing for Rampart. And people were like, oh, so preparing for Natural Born Killers, that was a much easier role to get into than playing a cop. And, like, he just kept saying, because people would bring shit up, and he's like, guys, let's bring it back to Rampart, though. And that became, like, an internet meme for a while. Like, let's bring it all back to Rampart. People were like, that's not what an AMA is. Like, stop it. Like, you have to ask, like, if we ask you about Cheers, stop trying to steer it back to your new movie. And, like, whoever was doing it just like kept like talking about how great the director was. It's like, I can't remember the guy's name, but it's like, Steve is a great director. Like he would always bring it back to try and go into like back into Rampart. People are like, are you fucking stalking this guy? Like, why are you like talking about him constantly? And like you can look it up, like look up Woody Harrelson Reddit, and it's hilarious. And like all of his answers have like huge amounts of downvotes. Like people were pissed the fuck off about it. It was great. It's clearly he didn't know what Reddit was, and his assistant's like, hey, do this. And he just thought, oh, I'm going to talk about my movie, right? And like was like, why are people talking about you? And someone even asked him, hey, when I was in high school, you crashed our prom party and then screwed some girl. Is that true? And he's like, I don't know about that. Can we talk about Rampart instead? But anyways, back to Freebirds.
Yeah, so that whole scene with the settlers there and everything, I guess that's their introductory scene, because when I came into it, I thought that was like maybe their second or third scene where the stakes are raised and there's more of an establishment of like the status quo of this and everything. But nope, that's it, I guess.
So since I was talking about Rampart, so they're just starving and they need to find the turkeys, I take it?
Wow, look at how distinct those two characters are.
Yeah.
Just in terms of design.
Look,
I can't believe that they're from the same species.
Look,
Do
I
you
don't
think
know.
they'll reveal at the end that she's his like great grandmother, and like it's gonna be like that Futurama episode where he gets his grandmother pregnant and he's his own grandfather, so it's gonna be like a weird incest time loop. Do you think this PG movies can do that? Do you, Jake?
Probably not.
It's pretty sick once it happened. I'll tell you that much.
I was going to say, I'm no animation expert, but it looks like to me, Jay, you're talking about how generic all these designs are. It just looks like they took they had two character models that they poured money into, and they just manipulated them both slightly to create all these different variations to make it look like they're all variated, but it looks very lazy and Look at
Yeah,
that. They all look the
most of these are
same.
just
For
palette
the
swaps
for the
and
extras, like the background turkey characters, absolutely. But I think it's there with the main characters who you think would look more distinctive, both for marketing reasons and for story reasons, but they don't. And to me, that speaks to a lack of vision in terms of the art style.
So if you could go back in time, how would you prove you were a wizard so you could be a god?
Oh, you're talking about this movie.
Yeah, would you go back in time and show the settlers a DVD copy of Freebirds and be like, "Look at me, I'm a magician."
You mean, would I break the Prime Directive?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
I would go full Captain Kirk and just start reading everybody the Constitution.
Yeah.
Do you guys know that show Sliders?
I've heard of it.
It's a really great show for the first 2 seasons out of 5. And like the premise was that this kid, played by Jerry O'Connell, he's like a college kid, creates a slider device, as he calls it, which is like to go to parallel worlds. So him, his friend, and then his professor, played by John Rhys Davies, decide to go on a trip, and the portal gets so fucked up it sucks in just this guy who's driving by. And because he fucked up the device, now they don't have the coordinates to get back to their Earth. So the first couple seasons was about them like going from world to world, trying to survive and get back to their Earth. And it was always like a weird parallel Earth where it's like, what if the Soviets invaded and took over America and like they have to join like a splinter cell? What if the Americans, did this, that, and the other thing? What if JFK was assassinated and then J. Edgar Hoover took over? That's a dictatorship. But there's an episode where what if the Americans lost the Revolutionary War and like they help a rebel group kick off a new war for independence, and they just start reading the Constitution off to them, and they're like, they're saying stuff like that's very antiquated by like today's standards. Like they get to like the part about like slavery, and then they're like, okay, we'll skip that part. Like, no slaves, no guns, guys, and like they're like, no, we gotta like have it go the same way. It's like, no, screw that. Like, they're arguing, and it's like that's what Kirk should have done. But back to
Proud
Freebirds.
words, proud words that say, "We the people."
I'm just trying to think of Captain Kirk in like a Star Trek episode where he encounters this situation.
A bunch of turkeys.
Yeah. Talking sentient turkeys.
Would make the triple episode a little better if they all talked.
He would come in and somehow get into a clumsy fist fight with like Woody Harrelson or something like that.
with the Woody Harrelson turkey.
Woody Harrelson would like blow up his, what's the thing called that the turkeys have?
I don't know.
Jackal?
I want to say jowls, but I don't think
Jowls, no,
that's the right word to use.
Giblets?
Jeez. And he would do like a karate chop into it. Oh.
And pop it like a balloon. Like a balloon with too much air.
Jim, you can't just eat these turkeys. They have a whole civilization.
Shut
Not
up,
now,
Doctor. He has some bones to cook him. He's like, I'm a doctor, not a chef.
And Scotty would be like, it's a prized Scottish tradition to cook the turkey on Thanksgiving, Captain. This is why the original cast was the best.
You know, like the new cast?
I never really watched any of the other Star Trek shows. They all get along way too well. Bones, Dr. McCoy is basically a walking HR nightmare.
They all are.
He just keeps like saying really racist stuff towards Mr. Spock, calling him like a green-blooded bastard. He would be like a Deadline article now.
Kirk's just sleeping with everyone. Oh, God, you're right.
He didn't really do that though in the original show. He didn't like sleep around that much.
You know what it was with the original show was that it was just there was a lot of episodes that would be about him falling in love with someone, and like it would either end tragically or they would just forget about it in the next episode. So it was like an unintentional thing. And then it became more self-aware when they got into the movies, because that was like the pop culture thing about Kirk, that he was always getting with different women. But it was mostly just because there would be a lot of episodes where he would have to get with someone for the plot.
Except City on the Edge of Forever. That's like Still one of the best episodes of
I
television I've ever seen.
I rewatched that with my brother recently,
Yeah.
and as soon as that woman walked in, my brother, who had just started watching Star Trek, and like he heard the music sting and everything, was like, "Oh, is he gonna get with her?" But it's a
Nope.
great episode.
Wait, is in this kids movie is the bad guy threatening them with a very large knife?
No, he's just saying how they're gonna plan to get the turkeys and everything. I don't know. I watched this part. They're gonna try to outsmart the turkeys, I guess.
So it's kind of a thing where the town is sort of doing their own thing at first, and then they're gonna, when things get desperate, they turn to the unstable guy. That's
Yeah.
what's kind of happening here.
Yeah.
Because
But in a
my
really
part
boring
was
way.
him taking over, where he was like, "All right, now we're doing things my way," and they start getting, getting serious and trying to kill the turkeys.
Was Miles Standish this much of an asshole in real life? Like, I'm sure all these colonial assholes were assholes in real life, but like, was he that much worse than the rest of them? Like, do you think his
It's
family tried suing, and that's why we're not going to get Freebirds too? Like, they sued him into the ground for defamation.
I don't think they saw it. So Jacob, do you know who voices this blue turkey? The one on the right?
That's Amy Poehler.
No, the man.
I'm not sure. I
Is it
I didn't
Chief
recognize
Broadbeak?
any of
Is it Chief Broadbeak?
the cast members other than what was it? Other than like Woody Harrelson, I knew George Takei, Owen Wilson.
Dwight Howard's in it.
What's that?
Dwight Howard's someone called Cold Turkey.
So I watched this on Hulu, my part, and when I got to the credits, you know how Hulu cuts it off and says like in the middle of the credits it'll come up with ads for their other shows.
Yeah.
It did that like right when it was showing the executive producer credit, and I could have sworn that it said executive produced by Alfonso Cuarón. I was like, oh my god, did Alfonso Cuarón produce Freebirds?
Did he lose a bet?
He did not, though. I guess he did not have a strong attachment to the story.
Hey, listen, if Coppola could do the Robin Williams movie Jack, anyone could do anything.
Well, it's like how Spike Jonze produces Jackass.
Everyone needs a hobby. Fucking Spielberg was making Schindler's List and then giving notes about Pinky and the Brain. I love, like, there's a picture of him on the set of Auschwitz or the ghetto. I can't remember which set. So obviously a very powerful location to be filming on, like a horrible, horrible thing. Schindler's List. He's gone on record like that, and E.T. are his two favorite movies of his. And he's like looking at storyboards for Pinky and the Brain. It's like that is such a fucking whiplash effect. That's like you're directing this masterpiece of cinema, and then I love Pinky and the Brain, love it, but it's very weird that like you're going from one to the other. So Alfonso Cuarón could do this as well.
I don't know if that was Alfonso Cuarón. It was probably his brother, Alfie Carson.
Or could you imagine?
Al Cuarón.
Could you imagine?
Al Cuarón.
This has got a good voice cast. Could you imagine that? This is like with Bill Murray, with the first Garfield, with thinking it was a Coen Brothers movie, signing on that like they saw that and they're like, oh, I'm gonna be in this movie, and then it's like, oh no, it's just a guy with a similar name.
Oh, Woody Harrelson saw the script title of Freebirds, thought it was named after the song. He was going to get to be in a movie about that.
The Leonard Skinner biopic.
Yeah.
Watch it.
Oh, yeah.
We gotta do Garfield at some point. That'll be our Christmas episode.
Do what?
Garfield.
I never
I don't
saw
know.
Garfield. I did see Garfield: A Tale of Two Kitties, though.
What about A Tale of Two Titties? That's the porn parody. Just some
What?
woman painted orange, eating lasagna and shit.
See, this is like the kind of humor that drives me crazy, where it's like very like they're clearly trying to put like modern pop culture references in with like the dancing and with like some of the stuff like that, but it's not really based in character in any way, nor is it like cleverly juxtaposed with the context that they're in right now. It's just sort of the joke is that it's a modern thing that you recognize.
Robin Williams ruined it with us with Aladdin.
With Robin Williams, it was like contextualized in a clever way, where it was him doing his rapid fire delivery, and they were animating around that, and that was funny. And everyone else around him was normal, and that made it even funnier.
Yo,
And the
that,
jokes themselves were very clever. So like he would make a clever joke that would comment on the scenario that they were in, and then there would be clever animation done by the animators around it that heightened it and made it funnier. Here, there's none of that.
well, that's I was joking with that, but yeah, I mean, that movie, a lot of people credit that with like, okay, now we got to put modern pop culture references in, but they don't know how to do it because not many people have the raw talent for improv and references like Robin Williams. I always use the example of the sequels and then the TV series when Dan Castellaneta played the genie when Robin Williams refused to come back. It's like Dan Castellaneta is funny, but like him trying to do pop culture references felt more forced than like Robin Williams just off the cuff trying to put the right thing in. So this here, like you said, it's here because it's modern, therefore it's funny, versus Robin Williams says something funny, but it also happens to be modern. The two don't need to be mutually exclusive.
Or they expect a modern audience to just find this funny. It's like if there was like a twerking joke in here. It'd be like a modern person in like 2015 would think that twerking is funny, and so that's the whole joke. It's very lazy humor that's based on outside context, separate from the movie, rather than anything happening in the movie.
Yeah, Shrek is another great example where right from the beginning it's the point of how irreverent it is, which is actually the point because that's part of Shrek's character. Right when he comes out of that outhouse, this Smash Mouth song plays, and you know the type of movie you're in for after that sort of the more fanciful fairy tale storybook. The whole point of that is that this is an irreverent story. This is not a fairy tale. Here it's just
Yeah,
arbitrary
the point
and
is
just
he
forced.
is the last person that you would expect to see
Yeah.
in a fairy tale story.
Yeah.
There's even like some of that is like that humor is designed to sort of make fun of the whole Disney fairy tale sort of story as well. Like the stuff when they get to Farquaad's castle is like clearly meant to be a parody of Disney World. So it's really saying something when it utilizes humor like that. It's not just trying to get a cheap laugh.
Yeah.
It also helps when you have a hate boner coming from Jeffrey Katzenberg wanting to destroy Disney. That there's a lot of passion behind that.
And maybe the next Shrek will be about all the people that didn't buy Queeby.
Donkey, it's 15 minutes long. Why would you want to watch it?
I think you just say the next Shrek is going to be a Quibi movie.
That's how they were trying to save it.
That was not too terrible of a Mike Myers impression too.
Thank you.
You do a good Michael Myers.
Oh, and Jake, I didn't tell you this. We commented on the Halloween commentary if like Mike Myers hates that movie because of the name. Apparently, Jamie Lee Curtis wanted Mike Myers to have a cameo in H2O where she would bump into him on the street and freak out and then run away, and then he would kind of like look at the camera and be like, "Huh." But they offered it to him, and he's like, "No, absolutely not." And I cannot imagine that movie.
Not only
He might have
because
made the right choice.
yeah, that's a terrible idea.
That's the sort of like bad meta humor that we're talking about that has nothing to do with the context of the movie.
Because if you don't know who he is, that joke doesn't work. It's just she ran into a random guy, freaked out, and then he looked into the camera. It's completely dependent on you knowing who he is.
And in the context of the movie, the only place she'd be running into him is that small town they live in. That's a small fucking town. What would Mike Myers be doing in that small town running into Laurie Strode?
See, they should have made it like that New Nightmare movie where they're making a movie about the events of Halloween that stars Mike Myers, and Michael Myers is stalking the set.
Well, I said the 15 times I've had to watch Blair Witch Project for all the videos we've done, including the one that just dropped today is we're recording with Ben Rock. But we talk about that with that sequel to the original Blair Witch, and like it's like New Nightmare. It's like a deconstruction, and it's like if you do that right, it can be good, like New Nightmare. And if you do it wrong, you're gonna get Book of Shadows, and that's not very good. But that's what you need to do. More meta humor.
Yeah, this movie needs more meta humor. That'll.
Right. Yeah. Ever needs meta humor.
See what's going on here? This is the shit that I watched.
Yeah, and maybe not paying attention, but it's like
This is the meat of the story, Jake.
he's falling
Yeah,
in love with the turkey. Okay, cool.
I
Humans
said this is
hunting.
this is the second act. This I really thought this was Luke Wilson. I was surprised when I found out it was Owen.
I will say I did hear Owen Wilson when I was watching it, but that almost, like I said, that almost made the whole endeavor a little bit more surreal for me. Because it felt like an SNL or a South Park joke. That
See,
you would just have Owen Wilson play like
A
such a
talking
straightforward character like this.
I was giving it a little more credit because I thought when I thought it was Luke Wilson, I thought they were doing a sort of like idiocracy sort of thing, like a reference to that. But I was very wrong.
That is quite a bit of credit to ascribe.
Yeah.
So who do you think's the better Wilson, Owen or Luke or Woodrow?
Which one was in the
Owen Wilson.
haunting?
Yeah, Owen Wilson. Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
maybe
that's
Owen
on
Wilson.
like Roku free watch now. Maybe I'll finally check it out. The Haunting.
What movie?
Oh god. I thought you were talking about the
Oh,
Great
yeah.
Pumpkin.
I've never seen The Great Pumpkin.
Wait, now they're in the present?
No, this is a flashback. This explains Woody Harrelson's
So,
backstory here.
is this where he's
So
going to
us.
see like the Great Turkey?
Maybe.
Because I thought that would be the opening of this, based on something that happens at the end.
Also, this is a fucking very, like, I have to say, I didn't say it at the beginning, but, like, going on how turkeys are eaten. And it's like, we do that with Chicken Run and other anthropomorphic, Jesus Christ, talking animal movies. And it's like, it's not too weird. Like, you don't go away, like, feeling bad necessarily for eating. I'm sure these movies do turn some people vegetarians and all that, but it's very weird. You have a movie that's supposed to be watched every Thanksgiving about how wrong it is to eat turkeys when presumably the majority of people are still going to be eating turkeys. Like, I can't imagine being like, wow, I'm going to watch Chicken Run and then have a huge chicken pot pie after. Like, do you think that fucked with kids' minds? Like, oh, Freebirds, eating turkey's wrong. What are we having for dinner, Mom? Turkey.
Well, I don't think kids saw this movie.
In theory, had they seen it. Oh, they're saying your name.
No. See, this part I actually kind of liked with the backstory here as to why he is.
Yeah,
the
I
way
like
he
this.
is.
Yeah. Does it explain why he has brain damage?
Well, I
No.
would say keep watching. What did they say? Did he? Oh, this is. So I thought this was going to be the opening scene.
Yeah. So here's when he sees the great turkey.
This is what they're gonna do for
There's
the.
a part of me that thinks maybe this would have made a better opening scene.
I think.
Because
Yeah.
it would have given us context as to what Woody Harrelson is. I understand that they want to introduce him as a kook and then reveal layers to his character. I understand that. But
Women just could just see that though. You could have it could have just opened with him running from these guys chasing him from this factory. Then he sees the great turkey, and then that's it. Oh, this little turkey's changed. And then over the course with this reveal, we kind of learn. Oh, he's like this for that reason. We think he's a kook and this kind of macho guy because he saw this great turkey. But
I guess my
and there could
my
be, like, a
opening
deeper
would have been
reveal.
too weird for the intern that's writing coverage. It's about turkeys going back in time to stop Thanksgiving. Okay, and they read the first 5 pages, and it's a weird thing about like a space turkey god meeting a young Woody Harrelson, and they're like, "What? What is this? This makes no sense." Pass. But if you make your opening like, "Oh, On Thanksgiving, we eat turkeys, but the turkeys don't like that. Just something really simple and straightforward like that. Then the script reader, who's like a college intern, will be like, "Oh, that makes sense. Recommend." So that's my 2 cents.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about timeline now and how cool that was. What you just talked about.
Oh yeah, it's a neat concept. I kind of wish they did more with it because they don't really comment on it. It doesn't become part of the plot at all.
In
No, it's
timeline?
like basically it's revealed that like the company was keeping that a secret from them, but
Mm-hmm.
it never really makes a difference to anything that happens in the story. It's kind of strange that way.
Is it a good book though?
It's okay. It's not my favorite Michael Crichton,
Oh,
but there's some good stuff in it. But
hmm.
it was very well
Maybe it's a
researched in
thing where
terms of the medieval background, and the quantum physics stuff was fun. Um, for what it was. The characters and the story itself were okay though.
maybe it's one of those things where if you readapt it as a movie someday, you can make it a better movie.
Yeah, the book was better than the movie. The movie's pretty disappointing.
That's too bad. Richard Donner
Isn't it like
directed
his
that too.
last film or one of them?
Is he
Don't know
dead?
for sure.
He's still around.
I'm
No,
pretty
he's still
sure.
alive.
But he directed
But
some Gilligan's
I remember in
Island
high school, I
episodes
really
around, just saying.
What's that?
He did some early Gilligan's Island episodes of some of the stuff he cut his teeth on first.
Oh wow.
Uh,
yeah. I always felt Richard Donner is a very underrated director.
yeah.
Honestly, that's why timeline
Very
seems
very.
so weird to me because I'd say he's earned the title of being a great director for all the good stuff he's made. And Timeline's just such a generic
But not just.
movie.
Hmm. But it's not just that. Just his versatility as a filmmaker. That guy did The Omen, and then he can do The Goonies. I mean, he can do
He went from
everything.
The Omen to Superman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lethal Weapon, Conspiracy Theory is a
Yep.
great movie. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of good stuff.
So yeah, this is still the second act here.
Yeah, we're getting close to being done with your part.
I was checking the time code around this time. I think we got about 10, 15 minutes. No, no, wait.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Mine started where they were all celebrating something.
Well, we have 33 minutes left in the movie, so 3 minutes, I guess, left in your part.
It was like the false victory that comes before your end of second act, where you reveal they're actually in a bad situation.
Yeah. So, I mean,
You're shifting your autonomy
Well, this
and
is
your
it.
characters back and forth, and it's like they're at a high point, which was about to come smashing down to a low point because it was built on a house of straw rather than brick.
see, and I guess I was kind
It's coming up. Oh, no, no. What Jacob's saying is right. It's about to come up.
When I was kind of right with my prediction, at least with the remote control, I thought like maybe it'll come back bigger in the third act, but using the laser pointer, which all TV remotes have, I guess, did come into it. I'm still saying it's gonna be found as like by archaeologists and be like, oh no, what's this? But yes,
Oh, that's good. See, that's like if you can't. That's something where if the writers can't fit it into the movie, they're like, let's create bloopers during the credits and we'll put it in there.
I would miss when kids movies would do that. Yeah, it's a real shame. This is obviously supposed to be like a Thanksgiving movie. We joke that other than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and then Spider-Man, there really aren't any mainstream Thanksgiving movies, and it's very disappointing.
Spider-Man's not even a Thanksgiving movie. There's just a sequence where Thanksgiving's in it.
Good enough for me.
It's
No.
honestly, I get the sense that this was probably written with that in mind. That there aren't a lot of Thanksgiving movies. So what do you do for a Thanksgiving movie? Well, you do this plot about turkeys and trying to stop the first Thanksgiving from being about eating them. They probably were thinking about that while they wrote it. Obviously, I don't know, but I think it's possible. And you know, I can even see how this would like look decent as like a spec script. Fulfilling that purpose while having like a clever setup and everything. It's a marketable spec script in that regard.
So powder horns, huh?
Well, that's like the weird thing. Because like the elder there, he's sort of like a Native American sort of thing they're going for because they got the paint on them.
And they have like the
It's definitely
feathers
what they're going
folded
for.
back in their head.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's like looking into like that scene in Attack of the Clones where there's just hundreds of like Tamura Morrisons walking around or whatever. That's what these scenes
No.
with these turkeys are like. It's just they all look the same. At least like the humans, like there's a little bit of variation in like their body structures and stuff. You have like the town mayor that's like short and fat and it shows like comical ineptness versus the slender, rigid, taller like man in black there. It's like a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, it's weird the villains get more detail than the main characters.
It's just like it looks like they're like clones.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like when
Turkeys.
he's talking to a lot, when you show a lot of the turkeys, it just looks like palette swaps of the main turkey. It's like, okay, this one's red instead. And so you're right, they had they probably had 3 or 4 turkey designs, and then like, okay, we'll change some colors, add a little bit of feathers here or there, but it's like they didn't do enough. Like they did just enough to change up if you're not doing close-ups in the background, but it's like, when you're getting close-ups, you're like, this is just the Reggie turkey again, this is just the Jake turkey again, but instead of purple he's red, instead of red he's blue. So like I can't wait for them to like kill all the humans and have like a Planet of the Turkeys ending, right?
Sooner than you know.
Now we're officially in Jacob's part now, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Jake, did you watch this?
I did, yes. Because this is what I'm talking about, where it's like I'm watching the end of all these arcs.
Wait, have we been saying Reggie was his name? Have we been fucking up his name the entire time?
I imagine so.
Oh shit, I hope not. I was just gonna like redub it like that Nostalgia Critic episode. Robert Prosky.
No, don't do that. Keep it. I didn't know. I just kept calling him Luke Wilson.
Yeah. We actually watched part of that review last night. It was great. And by great, I mean not great.
It's the first Schwarzenegger movie I ever saw was Last Action Hero.
Really?
Yeah, it was the first one. I watched it a ton of times on HBO as a kid.
Yeah, I like that.
We might do that later.
I like that movie a lot.
Oh my god, I just realized the set reminds me of the Ant Hill and Ants. Where's Woody Allen? Keep him away from the kids. Allegedly. But does this kind of look like an anthill and ants?
A little. You know what? When I
And
started watching it, it reminded me of that actually, because you have like the medium-sized thing and then the larger size thing, kind of like Stallone and Woody Allen and Ants.
Ants even had like a little bit more of an art style than this, I would say.
But even with the fucking ants, they were able to really distinguish them from each other.
Yeah. And that's back when, most animated CGI animated movies didn't look that great. Now we're like 15 years later.
This just looks like a movie from 2006.
Yeah.
I
Again,
really think it just speaks to the lack of vision behind the art style, because the animation quality itself, you look at like the textures and like the hair animations, it's all very high quality in that regard, but the art style itself is so underdeveloped that it makes it look worse.
Also, look how evil these humans are. They're punching through solid wood with their bare hands. Like, we're seeing this guy has to use a or an axe to get through, but other guys, like, they're just punching their hands through it. I mean, I guess they're starving, so... It's got dark. They're just gonna get flash fried.
And so this is why I was like, okay, so is it a thing where he doesn't approve of like the kids or like Amy Poehler's relationship with Owen Wilson or something like that. Because as you'll see coming up, there's a thing where, I got a little ahead of myself. I apologize, but it's this where he has to help him get out, and he sacrifices himself.
I mean, again, the backgrounds look good. Like they water a lot of times in these CGI movies don't look that great, but like it looked good. Like why do the backgrounds look great, but the main characters don't look good?
Like I was saying, I think it all just comes to art style.
How cold-hearted would it be when he's like, we have to go back and say that? 'Cause he's like, and he just like says, in my timeline, you've all been dead for 300 years. It's pointless. And then he just like runs away. He doesn't look at it as a redemption.
Like, I'm going to bring it back to Timeline. Timeline was trying to posit the idea that there actually are no such thing as time paradoxes, because the idea that you could affect an event in time enough to actually cause a paradox is basically impossible. They were arguing that like trying to change the outcome of time would be like trying to like stop a spectator randomly trying to stop a football game in the middle of a massive like football game. That they just wouldn't have the power to really make any major effects.
Yeah.
I disagree with that statement, but that was basically the theory it was positing.
See, Back to the Future is like, fuck it. Chuck Berry stole this song now. And I like it.
It's interesting that Michael Crichton would write a book positing that humans would not have the ability to, to change time or create time paradoxes because they couldn't. The events of time are too big for us to influence. Because he was also very much not a global warming guy either. He did not believe in global warming.
Really?
Or at least not to the extent that it was truly a problem. He wrote a whole book about how it was basically like a Chinese power company conspiracy.
Oh boy. Well, anyways, the dad's dead.
Okay, and that's where I got my idea from. Of maybe he was he sacrifices himself and finally comes to terms with his kids.
Yeah, maybe it's because I haven't been paying attention that much, but it didn't seem like that was like the big point. Like, that
I didn't. I guess we've been getting a little distracted.
But Jake, was there a big problem where he looked down on his daughter?
No.
Oh, so that just wasn't fair. So this whole thing where they have to decide the new chief, and they realize it's the daughter, and he's like, "Our father chose well." That's not a thing?
Nope. Don't think so. Not from what I remember. Granted, I watched it this morning. Maybe I'm a little fuzzy on the details. But
well, it has been a while.
Yeah, I don't think so. Oh God.
I mean, they're in the burnt remains of where their tree is, so it's got to smell great in there since the turkey was cooked.
See, this is like a nice little creative thing here, how they make all the feathers float up in memory of their lost friends.
Yeah.
It's just like, I wish there was like more creative stuff like this.
It's like that scene in Atlantis, the Lost Empire.
Also, yeah, Jake, you're absolutely right. There's like no time travel stuff in that middle section, or barely any. There's like the scene where he almost finds the machine, but that's
that's it. It has no effect on the status quo of anything or anything with the kid.
I can respect that they're stuck back here. Like they say in the My Third, where George Takei's like, okay, I got to power down to recharge for a day. So that's the thing. They're effectively stuck here. They can't keep going back in time and changing shit. So it's like they're stuck here. They have their mission. This is what we do.
It's almost like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's more. Maybe that's the idea, is that they're stuck. But there's like a part of me that's like a lazy way of writing the time machine out, so you don't have to deal with that throughout the rest of the second act.
Until it becomes convenient for the protagonist at that certain point when George Takei's like, oh, we're all powered up, we can go, and that's the time you see it. It's like it's very arbitrary, and it's very lazy.
Exactly.
So this is great.
Huh?
I'm thinking of the Angry Birds movie now for some reason. Remember Angry Birds? That should be the next commentary.
Remember Flappy Bird?
Remember
There were people that would have found that very funny.
10 years ago.
Try 7 years ago.
Close. I also was going to make a joke, like, is this going to intersect with the climax of Pocahontas, but I forgot that was Jamestown, not Plymouth. I'm not accurate with my historic jokes today, sorry guys.
I actually have not seen Pocahontas.
The Disney film?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I haven't seen it in years. I loved it as a little kid, but I have not watched it since then. But it was one of my favorites of the animated films that I watched.
I watched it in college in my history class, and we had to write papers about how wrong it was about everything. So we all like wrote 10-page papers about how fucked up this movie was. It was great. But I'm a nerd, so that's my idea of fun.
So in Pocahontas, when there was, the time machine, and John Smith had to go.
It's like must go and kill Hitler.
No, he said he wanted Pocahontas to come with him.
Do you think JFK Jr. would have used a time machine to save his father if he could have? Or would he know not to mess with the time?
Commenting on that.
I like the abstract, time travel world. It looks like the screensaver on a Mac.
Yeah, remember there's time travel in this movie? And fun sci-fi concepts.
This little girl has narcolepsy. That's like her one thing where she just keeps saying, "I'm tired," and then passes out.
So what does he do here? Is he just gonna? I'm just imagining. I know my question's gonna be answered within the minute, but I'm just imagining how he just
It
reserved.
was just answered.
Okay.
Did you see what happened?
Yeah.
He sees himself.
You know what would have made this moment more effective? If every character didn't look exactly the same.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
He basically, in the future, goes back in time to convince himself not to give up on them, to go back and help them fight.
Ah.
And that he shouldn't go back to his old life living with the president. He should go back in time to the people that he cares about.
Oh, so this is a future version of him. Is like, I know I'm a coward, and I have to convince my coward past self.
Again, watching the last 30 minutes of this movie was like watching all these, I got to see this boring character arc without actually having to watch the whole thing. I just got to see the ending part where they're like, you don't realize what you have back there. You got to go back, instead of having to watch the scene where he leaves his life, goes back, enjoys it, but then something goes wrong and he thinks he has to go back.
Oh, so okay. I thought.
So does he steal a gun from the soldiers and go back and just give guns to the turkeys to mow down the Plymouth settlers? Is that the ending?
Well,
It's like the final countdown.
what I was gonna say was that I thought Reggie was just gonna go into that house and walk into the oven.
Just puts his head in the oven.
No, I thought he was gonna put his whole body in the oven. He just gave up.
No, the other two versions of him are gonna now, and they'll be like, figure that time paradox out, Michael Crichton.
No, the main Reggie leaves, and the other two are like, we accomplished our mission. So you want to fuck now? I'm like, yeah. Oh my god, there's gonna be a turkey gangbang. So if a future version of yourself came up, it's like, hey, want to have sex? Would you?
No.
This just reminds me of Bill and Ted, this kind of stuff, in a good way.
Yeah. It's funny. It's reading the captions. It's funny. They just keep doing no, I'm even further from the future.
Did anyone watch the new Bill and Ted movie?
I haven't yet.
It's very funny. I just got a book by Chris Matheson, actually, who co-wrote the 3 Bill and Ted movies. But he also, I didn't realize this, he's the son of Richard Matheson.
Oh?
Really?
Yeah, Chris Matheson, the co-writer with Ed Solomon of the 3 Bill and Ted movies. I just got a book that he wrote, though. I'm looking forward to reading.
Could you make Richard Matheson wrote this. We bring Richard Matheson back from the dead to like do a Passover on Freebirds. It's like now you can go back to the grave, Richard.
Charlie Kaufman did the Passover Freebirds. They saw his work on Kung Fu Panda 2, which I heard is actually very good. I've never seen any of the Kung Fu Panda movies.
First movie's great. I would say it's probably the best DreamWorks movie since Shrek. And then,
Wow.
yeah, I think it's legitimately great. And then the second one's really
yeah, that's
good.
their like big thing now.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
their big franchise.
So this is where this is why I thought that the opening would be him encountering the Great Turkey for
Okay.
this scene that you're about to see.
The Great Turkey. I could go for some turkey right now. Again, that's like the message I shouldn't get from this. I shouldn't like have this on as a kids movie on Thanksgiving Day and then we go eat turkey.
Because it was him the whole time.
Yeah, I kind of figured that.
I think there's like a part of me that was like, this would have been more effective if it was like earlier in the movie, set up a little bit more. They set it up like in the middle instead, which, the functionality is still there, I suppose.
Yeah, as soon as they introduced him saying, "Oh, the Great Turkey gave me this," I'm like, okay, time travel. It's gonna like they go back. I thought it was gonna be himself doing it. I thought it was gonna be himself doing it to him, but not the Reggie. But still,
Maybe it would have been better if they introduced that without time travel at first, because then we wouldn't have any context for it, and we would have been like, oh, what is this strange thing? Whereas introducing it in the middle, you're like, oh, it must be a time travel thing, because we've established time travel exists.
well, I mean, even when he says the Great Turkey showed up in a ball of light, I'm like,
Oh, wait, we're on the scene that looks like...
I was about to say that shot when they were coming out of the mist. That's like exactly.
It looks like the shot from the Phantom
Yeah,
Menace.
I was gonna say that.
"Where's Jar Jar?"
I was thinking that when I was watching it yesterday. I meant to point it out.
Someone's got to use the Gungan music over this.
Ouch time.
But seriously, you think JFK Jr. would have went back in time?
Look, they got the Boombas. Or what were they called? Use it, a Boomba.
What? Misa don't have a boom.
We-
Here, take out this one.
Oh, that guy's dead.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Wait, there's Native Americans in it? Oh,
Is that supposed to be an
God.
Angry Birds joke? Or is that just supposed to be like
I
a
think it's an
joke
Angry
is that
Birds
it's such a simple declarative statement?
I think it's an Angry Birds joke.
I wouldn't know.
If it were just a bad joke, they would have been like, man, those are some jive turkeys. Because all kids who watch this movie are aware of that phrase.
There's a lot of things for the pilgrims to be unpacking here.
Yes.
That's why they become turkey gods after this. Could you imagine though if this was the ending, like the turkey army just gets all slaughtered because like, oh yeah, you're a bunch of fucking turkeys going up against humans with weapons. How did you think this was going to turn out? Good thing the time machine is magnetized.
Oh no, at the risk of sounding like I'm trying to outsmart the film, I'm not. It is a time machine. There's not like a rush in terms of when he gets there. They were like setting it up like he's got to get there in time before they shoot him, but
They've
It's
been
a
dead
time
for 300
machine.
years when he left.
you know,
It's fine.
I don't know. This stuff. Honestly, that wouldn't even matter if we were really invested in what was going on in this movie. We would have accepted that just fine. But this is the confused pilgrims get down on their knees and start worshiping the turkeys.
There was a show on NBC called Timeless, and it was about like a terrorist organization steals a time machine, like invented by an Elon Musk type company, and now they're going around history to like fuck with history. So like a college professor, a soldier, and then like one of the technicians who's never traveled through time but knows how it works takes the spare time machine out, and like they keep fucking with history. And there's literally an episode where they go back into Pilgrim's times, and the soldiers, Pilgrims see this, and it's like now described as like a religious movement broke off because of this. And it's like, yeah, this would be like seeing God come down.
Did you see it?
Pizza.
You guessed right.
Yeah.
It's pizza.
I'm like, they made a pretty big deal about him ordering pizza and how much he loves pizza. I'm like, is that going to be a thing in here?
At least it was like set up.
Yeah, it was just a thing. I'm like, oh, is that going to... Because I was like, Jake, it's like, how are they going to get away with getting rid of turkeys for Thanksgiving? Like, they have to. What's the alternative? I'm like, pizza. I didn't think he was going to literally bring them pizza. I think he was going to... I thought he was going to show him how to make pizza, but that was it. I'd go for pizza.
So is that product placement with the Chuck E. Cheese?
I have to imagine. And it's weird because the only other product placement is when they're looking at the map and like you see like an Auntie Anne's and like a Reebok and like one other store, a Fossil. And it's like, that works as a funny joke that like this top secret government organization has a map like a mall. And it's like, but it's like, really? Chuck E. Cheese? They were the sponsor of this? Didn't they go bankrupt? Did this movie bankrupt Chuck E. Cheese?
You know you can order Chuck E. Cheese off Postmates?
We should do that.
I don't know why.
I've never...
I want to order like a salad from them because they have salad on their menu.
Chuck E. Cheese, if these people tasted Chuck E. Cheese, they'd go back hating each other.
They just go back in time and it's like become post-apocalyptic because they didn't like the pizza.
Yeah.
It's been 20 years since I've had Chuck E. Cheese. Is it that bad?
Well, you know, the fun of Chuck E. Cheese is like the novelty of being there to play the games.
Well, no, I'm not saying like that's like the good food, but like
here's some of our clever humor. Wow, he accidentally invented anchovy pizza, and the Native American chief makes a joke about his wife's cooking. Doesn't this say so much about his character?
Yeah, like they just showed up. I'm like, oh yeah, there's Native Americans.
Well, again, it's like lazy humor. Like none of those are just like. The joke is that those are funny modern euphemisms that you would not see a Native American from colonial times saying.
Also, it's like Mr. Anchovy, you've ruined it. It's like they're named after the fucking fish. It's like, like it's not even a funny joke. It's like we know why it's called anchovies.
I'm just glad they I guess they were clever enough to not include pepperoni on the pizza. Otherwise that would include another horrible situation. Where does pepperoni come from? What is it, pork?
Isn't it pork?
Yeah, so
Really,
there'd be a sequel where pigs would have to go back in time to stop this from happening.
So now pizza is what you eat on Thanksgiving.
Oh, when he brought her into the future. Huh.
Wait, is that...
Did she abandon her people?
No, Owen Wilson stays in the past with her.
Oh.
But she was just there. So what, was that just like a thing like, oh, now it's there and we're imagining?
Yeah. Now, I want you guys to brace yourselves because we're coming up on that last line that I've been telling you about.
Okay. Let us know.
It's going to be a lot to unpack.
So how about those Packers?
You mean Brett Favre?
Wherever
All
we're
right.
needed.
Sit tight. Well, first we get some turkey action here.
How can they have kiss sounds without lips?
It's like Rockadoodle with the squishy beaks. There's a reference that takes much more time to explain than we have. Oh, that was it. That was our final line.
Wait.
The thesis statement to the entire film
Oh my.
is "Oh my," a joke that has nothing to do with the movie itself, but is a reference to George Takei's
career.
famous line in real life. That is the final word of Freebirds. Oh my.
Well, thanks for joining us. Glad you took part in
Happy
this.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck to you on...
And now we see how they changed history and made turkeys very, much more successful as a result of their actions, I guess.
Oh no. Oh no.
So is this Reggie, or are these just turkeys?
Well, I mean, that's Jake.
It's both.
Oh, Jake Jr. Yeah, but it's not very consistent because it's not like Reggie could travel through time. You know, so it's like, okay, Jake's like, go wherever we need to go. So it's like, is he fucking with time now? Is he gonna go kill Hitler?
I think the idea is that their actions are causing turkeys to become
So they're just remembered.
to become much more successful in the future
Pismo
as a species.
Maybe a little too successful.
Yeah, I'm getting some real dystopian stuff going down now.
This is like the end of the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes.
Exactly.
Like, they already did the signing of the Declaration of Independence joke. Now it's just on the $2 bill.
This movie is just bursting at the seams with thematics, and it has one more thing it just has to say.
Oh my god, this is... Oh no. What?
There you go. Did you see what he said?
The turducken. What?
Turducken? Yeah.
Oh, there it was, Alfonso Cuarón.
Well, there we go. So, alright, well, this was fun. We'll have to do something like this again in the future. I think it was fun picking a movie none of us have seen and trying to guess what happens in different parts of the movie.
Overall, it's watchable, but there's a reason it's been forgotten.
Yeah. It's a shame because there's not really any Thanksgiving movies.
You can tell that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make a Thanksgiving movie out of this. And, unfortunately it doesn't quite work out because the movie just doesn't come together.
No.
Well, there's worse fates. Good night, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
What are you looking at, you hockey puck? Isn't that funny? That's the thing somebody said once.